we do what they call a revolver evaluation. So what that entails is checking the timing, single action, double action, checking the forcing cone, okay, to make sure that there's no cracks. We are going to look at the BC gap, the barrel to cylinder gap, the headspace, and to see what that is, because there are certain tolerances that Colt, okay, wants you to be within. Okay, we're going to make sure that the proper sights are on the gun. Front sight and rear sight for the date of the gun. So when your gun gets here, we will date it, and we will make your gun period correct, okay, to the year that it is. The first one that we're going to start out with is that we're going to see what the trigger pull is. Okay, so everybody wants to know what their trigger pull is. Okay, so what we have are NRA weights here, okay? Everybody always wants the lightest trigger pull. But a lot of people don't realize, okay, that in a trigger pull, okay, Colt has specifications to where if you drop that gun, it's not going to go off. Okay, so the trigger pulls can't be too light and they cannot be too heavy. Being too light could cause light primer strikes. Okay, so if you have a light primer strike, it's going to hit your primer, okay, but it's not going to ignite the primer in order to shoot that round. All right, so we always have to be within the proper specifications to make these guns function properly. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out with 3 pounds. So we're going to pull the hammer back. Okay, we're going to put all the weight on the gun. And we're just going to pull up. Okay, and not jerk it, just pull up nice and slow. And as you can see, 3 pounds does not pull the trigger back enough to shoot the round. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go 3 1/4. Do the same thing. And look at that. So we know now that this gun, this revolver, has a 3 1/4 pound trigger pull. Pretty simple, okay? We do this all day long. And people just love to know when they get their gun back in the restoration letters that we give them, okay, exactly what the specifications are of their particular gun. Okay, next, okay? We are going to do the BC gap, okay? That's barrel to cylinder gap, okay? So when you open the cylinder, okay, your barrel comes all the way across to the inside of the frame. Okay, so your cylinder face, okay, meets what they call, okay, the forcing cone, okay? The forcing cone is how the inside of the barrel is cut, okay, so that the bullet centers properly, okay, and your round goes down the barrel properly. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to close the cylinder and we're going to measure the gap, okay, between the barrel and the cylinder. So we got a feeler gauge set here, okay? And anyone will do, okay? So let's just say we'll start out at 3 thousandths so that everybody knows this, okay? Colt tolerances, all right? Colt says that normally that they want a 3 thousandths gap up to an 8 thousandths gap. Okay, an 8 thousandths gap's on the far end, which means pretty soon your gun will need some work, but we'll get into that, okay? But you can get away with shooting at 8 thousandths gap, but your gun may spit some lead on at you, okay? So it might spit a little lead, okay, between the barrel and the cylinder. We won't get into that. We'll get into that at another time, okay? But we're going to check this gun right now. So we're going to start at 3 thousandths. We're going to slide this in. You got a little bit of room. Let's go back up and we'll check 4 thousandths. Okay, 4 thousandths. Still got a little bit of room. Let's go to 5. 5 thousandths is feeling just about right, where there's not any play in it. Now what I'm going to do now is I am going, okay, to pull the trigger to feel if there's any binding. So there's no binding. So I'm feeling that 5 is pretty good, but let's move on to 6 just to make sure, okay, that that 5 is the right number. I'm having a very difficult time getting 6 in, and I can feel the face of the cylinder binding, okay, against my gauge. So we're going to call this gun that this gun has got a 5,000th BC gap. Okay, so this gun is not super tight, and it's not super loose, okay, which means that this gun has been shot, and it still has plenty of years of shooting ahead of it. Okay, so right now, we know for a fact that our single action and our double action timing is correct. We can look right now at the forcing cone area, okay, the barrel. We can look at this forcing cone and see that there's no cracks, so that's good. The only reason why this would be cracked, okay, is if somebody was shooting loads that were way too hot, okay, and they would literally crack the forcing cone, the face of the barrel, okay, and then if that happens, which it happens all the time, people are always trying to get the hottest loads that they can in their guns, we would just go and we would put a new barrel in the gun. Okay, so then when we look at this gun, we know for a fact that this gun is a 1988. This is a stainless Python. In 1988, the gun came with an orange front insert. Gun also came with a white outlined rear sight. Okay, so by me seeing these on this particular gun, I know the sights are original. Now I'm thinking that the grips here were once an original pair off of an earlier gun, and then what somebody did is they modified them and they checkered them. So when it comes to the grips being original, it ain't gonna make it. Okay. So if the customer, when I go to do the restore, will most likely buy a brand new pair of presentation grips, which we have in inventory. Now, by me looking at thousands and thousands of these guns over the years, you know, I'm looking pretty carefully and I see what a lot of people don't see. And I'm going to just use this one as an example on this particular gun. Okay? When I look at this rear sight on this gun, it's got a dimple on the one side. Okay, which means that somebody screwed in the screw too tight and the screw started coming out the other side. Because if you look at this sight on this particular gun, there's no dimple. Okay, so when we do the restoration on this stainless Python, I am going to suggest to the client, okay, to buy a new rear sight. Reason being is that when we restore these guns back to 100% original condition. Okay, and something like that, if I'm seeing it, well, somebody else is going to see it. Now, one other thing that we didn't mention, okay, when we're doing our evaluation is hammer push-off. Okay, very important. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the hammer on this gun and we're going to pull it back. Okay, we're going to take our thumb and push up. Okay, sometimes from shooting a gun a lot, the hammer will just automatically, I'm going to force it to do this, but the hammer is just going to come back. So if you're at the range, okay, or you're shooting your gun and you have the hammer back, and God forbid you're talking to somebody and your hand just barely touched it, I mean, you could hurt somebody. And it's very important, okay, that your revolver does not have hammer pushback. Okay, and this one does not. Okay, and we don't have to check them on every cylinder. And reason being is because if it doesn't come back on one, it's not going to come back on any of the other ones at all. Okay. So as a recap, what I like to do before we do timings is to clean the revolver. Take the gun 100% apart, clean it, oil it. Okay, make sure that everything is smooth and free spinning, okay, and nothing is binding. So this way here, when I am doing a timing on the gun, okay, we can fine tune this gun just like it was just like the day that it was manufactured. So I just wanted to do a recap of timing and our revolver evaluation. This is a great way to get to know your own particular revolver. It's something that we do day in and day out here at the custom shop. If you'd like us to check your revolver or check your timing, and if you guys have any questions or if your guns aren't timing properly, give us a call. Thank you for watching, and please, everybody, we'd like you to hit that button and please subscribe. And until then, we'll see you with another video.